And hello, everybody. I'm glad to see some people here already. Um, Basically, I wanted to try doing a live stream here. I've never done them before on my own. I've done them a few of his guests. So really wanted to talk a little bit, maybe why I want to do live streams now, because I have said in the past on some videos that I really had no interest in live streams. And you never say never in this hobby, and that's like with anything here. Um, Videos will be my bread and butter. Videos are always my favorite, and they will be my top priority. But I'd love to see my channel kind of grow some more. And in order for it to grow, I feel like this is the next natural progression, is to get on these live streams, kind of get out of my comfort zone here. And videos, obviously, I can sit there and talk however I want, and if I screw something up, I can hit delete and start over and do it again. Where here, you're going to hear me flub some words. You're going to hear me probably say the wrong things a few times, but that's just natural in my opinion. So yeah, so that really is the plan. Also, what to expect from these live streams for me. Well, I can say that I have a whole different ideas throughout. I like to try some of them. Like today, I have a topic which I'd like to talk about, which we will in a little bit, which is what is a natural tank. Other times, I may want to kind of show you around the fish room and show you what I'm doing. It's also like to, have guests once in a while. That's another part. And speaking of guests, I don't know if you're on right now, Maul, but Maul from Aquarium Delirium will be my first guest next week. And I plan on doing, whenever I have guests on, my plan is to kind of do like a 5-10 question interviews to kind of get people to know that hobbyist a little better. And if you're not subscribed to them, to definitely subscribe to them. So Maul will be the next guest, and first, I should say, coming next week. So speaking of Maul, can I click on there and make you as a moderator? Yes. Let's do that. I think I did it right. Anyway, so that's the plans. Like I said, we're just going to go with it. We'll see how it goes. Sunday mornings are typically my best time to be able to have free. Saturday, sometimes I have to work, so I can never really guarantee I can be on. Or Sunday mornings always seem to be the best. So time being, I'll try doing this time slot around 9 a.m. just to kind of talk and do whatever. So that's that. And just want to say hi to everybody on there as well. So Tommy, nice to see you. Jeff over at Empire of Dirt. And Soin to you, 18. Good morning to you as well. So I guess we can get into this a little bit, and let's talk about the topic on hand, which I wanted to talk about, and that is, what is a natural tank? Now, I feel like it's such a wide range of what a natural tank really could be and what it is. So before we get started, I do want to pose a question. This is for people to kind of keep in mind, and I want to come back to it again later. Is a natural tank truly attainable within our aquariums and our aquarium hobby? Is it something that we can really do to have a natural ecosystem working and operating within one of these aquariums? This is something I want to have you stick in the back of your brain, because I definitely like to come back to that again in a little bit. But to start with it, I mean, there's all different components to every type of tank, not only a natural tank, but any tank in general. That's always the substrate, your hardscape, plants, water, yes, but then also the human components like the heaters, the lights, filters, that type of stuff. So to kind of break it down, let's start with substrate. Let's say this. Every dirted tank, in my opinion, is a natural tank. But not every natural tank has to be dirted. That's my opinion. So what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, basically, if you could set up a dirted tank, you have live plants, you have normal hardscape, something from earth that you take out of the wild or that you buy that is from the wild. I consider that a natural tank. But again, we'll get back to that. Is it truly attainable thing later? But what about like sand substrates or gravel substrates with those same components, would you consider that a natural tank? To me, I would. As long as you keep those natural components, I don't believe that a dirty tank has to be a be all end all when it comes to natural tanks. I don't know. Love to hear other people's opinions on that as well. Um, let's see. Correct, Tommy. There are so many different views on the definition of natural tanks, and that is completely why I wanted to really talk about it. And you're right too. Sand and gravel is natural, and that's really, in my opinion, a big thing of it. I think when people think of natural tanks, the first thing that comes to mind is the dirty tanks, because I think dirty tanks have really been a topic, a hot topic, a hot thing to do in the last few years. And I think like sand and sand and gravel tanks can get completely overlooked in that mix when people talk about natural tanks. I feel like dirt is the be all end all in some people's views, and I really truly don't believe that. Now, I love dirty tanks. If you have seen my fish room, I have a whole fish room full of dirty tanks, and I love it because they have so many benefits. But I've had awesome gravel and sand tanks too with heavy plants and stock, and it all did great. So in my opinion, yes, I think you could get away with sand or gravel. It doesn't make a difference as long as you're doing all those other components. Now, I have another tank over here, which I'm not going to show you right now, which is not a dirty tank. And it is a new tank in my fish room. I gave it a little glimpse in my latest video on Friday. It's a 55-gallon tank, and it's going to be a natural tank, all natural in my definition, which we'll get to in a little bit. But it's not dirted, and mostly because the inhabitants I'm going to be putting in there are very sensitive, and I just want to be a little more careful with it. So not that you have to be careful with dirty tanks with other fish, but this specific inhabitant is a little more sensitive to water parameters, and I don't really want anything to happen to them. So that being said, so natural tanks, in my opinion, like I said, don't matter the substrate, dirt, sand, gravel, all of them can work. So what's the next thing? Hardscape. Hardscape, in my opinion, if you put plastic, wood, or fake decorations in your aquarium, it's really, I don't like them. I like everything to look like I said before in my videos, like if you went down to the bottom of a river or a lake and you could just take a picture, if you lay down at the bottom, and that's sort of what I want my tanks to look like. So putting any type of fake decor within the aquariums kind of takes that away from it for me. So that's why I don't really care for them. Now, I don't consider that a natural aquarium, but like I said, everyone's got their own view and they've got their own opinion on what things are. And if that's something you like, that's all that really matters. But for me to call a natural tank for my own self, you need to have everything out of the wild or something that's from the earth. So that's hardscape. And plus, I love going outside. I love like just taking walks along the beach of Lake Michigan here where I live, or down by the river, and a van down by the river. Chris Farley popped into my head. I don't know why. Anyway, and just finding hardscape, finding like rocks or wood or anything that I find along the way. I just find it very interesting. Plus, on top of it, like I said, to be able to have that in one of your aquariums and you have people come over and to be able to tell that story of like, hey, I found this on the lake when I was taking a walk. And they'll be like, you could put that in your aquarium? Yes. That's what I love. There's like, you can cut costs in this hobby, and you can just maybe intrigue and inspire somebody else just by bringing something home for them to be able to see something like that and maybe want to do the same thing. That's what I love. So I want to take a second to say hello to Audria and Mr. Stubbs and Stubbs Aquatics there. Stop by. Who else is here? I'm sorry if I just mispronounce your name there. Rakesh Patel, hello and welcome. So like I said, every component of a natural tank, everyone has their own opinion, their own viewpoints, what they want to see in it or what they don't. And it's really up to every individual and what they consider natural and what they don't. But the next component obviously is plants. You know, plants, and I mean live plants, are a huge, huge beneficial part of not only a natural tank, a dirty tank, a sand tank, a gravel tank, any tank in general. I'll say this: when I first got into the hobby, shoot, it was probably close to 30 years ago. I'm going to be 50 in October next month. It's not September 1st already. And I think I got my first tank when I was 19 or 20. It was around that area. I was afraid of live plants. But at that time, if there was, I don't think there was a YouTube back in like 94, 95. That's about when I started. If there was, I had no idea about it. I had no idea about internet. I mean, heck, I didn't even have a cell phone at that point. I knew nothing. So basically, all I knew was I got a tank, I got gravel and the filter that came with it, and I was like, okay, plastic plants, let's put those in there. And I would see sometimes when I got to internet about people having issues with live plants, so they kind of scared me. So I didn't want really anything to do with them. So for many, many years, I did not do live plants. And I really regret that decision, because eventually I got out of the hobby for probably about, I don't know exact time, maybe 6 years, maybe 7 years tops. And I got back into it, and I got the tank, a 65-gallon tank, the one that sparkles my Oscars in there now. And I found an aquarium co-op, and I'd have to say Corey and Aquarium Co-op and that channel single-handedly inspired me to do live plants, inspired me to learn more about this hobby, inspired me to try to do like DIY projects and to like learn how to save money. And I bought my first plants from them and put them in my aquariums, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is not hard at all. And look at, I mean, they look cool, they look real, they don't look fake like these fake plants. And I find live plants that, like I said, I've had videos on it before, but they are so beneficial to any aquarium. If you can keep them in a tank with other fish, I mean, I know there are some species of fish that are just hard, like African cichlids and stuff like that. But if you can get away, even with some type of floating plant or some type of anubias or hornwort or something that you can float just to keep something live in there, that helps tremendously with, obviously, we all know the pulling nutrients out of the water column and all that stuff. And it's just, it's great. And that's another point, a component, like I said, of a natural tank itself as well, because you need that, because every component from the substrate, the plants, the inhabitants, the fish you put in there, they all work in unison. It's always a symbiotic relationship between them all, because they all depend on each other. You know, it's without one of them, the other one will fall. So it's almost, they're almost like a stool, you know, they're all holding the tank up, they're holding that ecosystem up, every leg. If you take one of those legs off, the stool's going to fall over. You need all three of them, all the components in there, no matter how many legs of the stool you have, but you need them all there, because that's what's going to keep that up. It's what's going to keep that ecosystem thriving and going. And that's what I love about these tanks the most. And I'd have to say, it was probably about 5 years ago when I first put up my first dirted tank. And strangely enough, the first place I found a dirted tank video that got me interested was Dustin's fish tanks. I was watching one of his videos a long time ago, and I saw he was doing a dirty tank, and I'm like, he was having such great plant growth, and I'm like, I want to try this, you know? So I did a lot of research, and like I do now, I'm obsessive with my research, and I went and found Father Fish at that time. This was before he was actually big and popular, and I was looking for what kind of dirt to use, because Dustin's fish tank had a dirt package you could buy on his website, but I really didn't want to spend the money. And that's what I think I said. I found Father Fish, and I found an old video that he was giving all the ingredients that he uses in his dirted tanks at that time. Now that stuff has changed tremendously from then till now. But so I wrote down a list. I wrote down everything that I could see in that video. Then I went to my local hardware store, Menards, and I found not a lot of the components, but I found probably a third of them. Some of them are just too expensive for me to even want to try, because I really had no idea what I was doing or what they would really do. So that's what I did. I put everything together. I put dirt in, and then that was the next thing that like confused me. It was like, what do you use for a cap in these things? Dustin's fish tanks uses gravel. I saw Father Fish use sand. I'm like, well, what's the right thing to do? I have no idea at that time. And at that time, the dirted tank, natural tank craze wasn't as big. They're just it's blown up now, but at that time, like I said, there wasn't such a huge craze, so there wasn't a lot of information on there. You really had to, on YouTube, I mean, you really had to dig a little bit, and that's where I just kind of went with, well, Dustin's using gravel. Father Fish, I really didn't know who he was at the time. It was just the dirt method. Like I said, he hadn't blown up yet, and I think, I'm going to go gravel, so I went gravel, and that's the big confusion too. What cap to use? Honestly, I like sand. I found it to be more beneficial than gravel for myself, but that doesn't mean that gravel won't work for other people, or mixes of the two. I've had one of the videos I put out a while ago, almost a year ago probably, had talking about what cap to use in a dirted tank. And, I've had a plethora of people write in the comments tell me the different types of substrate caps that they use and work for them. And that's great. I mean, there are so many different options. Basically, our tanks, if you want to look at it this way, are like a recipe. You have a recipe for this cake you want to make, and everyone's got their own ingredients. You start with some of the base ingredients because you need dirt. If you're going to do a dirty tank, you need a cap, but your cap might be different than mine. How much you put in it might be different than the other person's, but at the end, as long as that end goal comes where you make that tank that is a sustainable, I can't speak again, sustainable, that's the word. I know it's wrong, but anyway, my wife will make fun of me later. And your tank thrives. It's all that matters. It doesn't matter how you get to that end goal as long as you get there with the way you do it and you learn. And that's the biggest thing I've learned in this hobby and doing this style of tank as well, is really opening your mind and thinking outside the box and thinking really, how can you do things differently? How can you do things to achieve what your goals that you want to get, without using what everything tells you you're supposed to do, like over the years, and that's my biggest thing. I find that if you go online and you read a lot of things, they tell you what you do in this hobby with these natural tanks, like especially me with not using air or filters, that's not attainable. It's not possible. I'm wrong. I'm going to kill my fish. Guess what? I'm not. They're thriving. They're doing great. I have no filter, no air in my Oscar and my puffer tank. I'll show you guys hopefully that in a little bit. And they're doing great. And why? It's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be possible. Well, it is. So that's why I implore everyone to kind of just think outside the box. As part of the slogan of my channel, to think outside the box and step back into nature. And I really take that to heart, because that's truly how I believe with this hobby. I mean, you really should question what is told you and what has been told you over the years, because a lot of times it's really these big companies just trying to sell you stuff, really, in my opinion. They want you to be able to buy their products, so they tell you some of these things are not attainable, that you'll kill your fish, and that it's just not right. And then people don't know any better or don't do any research, and then they see, I just do your research and try things. Like I said, don't listen to just one source. It's almost, I'm not going to bring up politics, but it's almost like politics. You really have to do your own research to see what's going on in your own viewpoints of what's in this country or wherever you live, than just listening to what the media says. And it's the same thing with this. You need to look at your tank, look what's going on, and decide if it works for you. Don't listen to an outside source. And then the whole stepping back in the nature thing, like, I think that's self-explanatory. Take a walk, look, grab things, bring them in your tank. And that's what I love the most about these tanks. So anyway, enough of that. I guess let's talk about those human components. And this is where it can kind of cloud the water of a natural tank, if you really consider it to be one. You got your light heaters and your filters. Now, let's start with heaters. Heaters are I said this in my video, an evil thing that just is a necessary evil, is I think of the way I put it. Some people can get away, it all depends where you live and how you have your setups. I live in Wisconsin that has cold winters. All my fish room here is in my basement. My heater for my furnace is right next to my fish room, so I get a little bit of heat pumped in here. But if I don't have heaters in my aquariums, they get in the probably mid 60s water wise. Now, I have been transitioning over to a lot of fish that do not require filters. I've got the white clouds, rice fish, um, rainbow shiners, stuff like that, because I want to try to get away from heaters if I can, for the most part. I'm not going to be entirely, because I have an Oscar, a puffer, my rare Matano rice fish are a tropical breed, so they need heaters. My swordtails, I don't know, in my Plotty Varieties, I don't know if they necessarily need them. But here's the thing. Some of my plants might, and that's, your plants aren't going to grow the greatest in cooler water like that unless you have cooler water species, in my opinion. And I think that's a big thing as well. You need to really consider that. Like, I don't plan on putting heaters is in a lot of these tanks this winter, and I want to see how they kind of go. I know I've had some of my crypts melt on me and die back when a heater failed in one of my tanks. And so that's my biggest fear. Like, I know some of my fish are going to be just fine, but I don't want my plants to digress from not having heat in them. So I got to kind of look at that subject and look at that part of it as winter comes. Like right now, they're fine. Without heaters in those tanks, my water temperatures are staying right around 70 to 72. And the plants are fine and thriving in that. But once it gets, like I said, down into the mid 60s, we'll have to see how it goes. But yeah, heaters, like I said, if you can have a heated room, that's ideal. It's not possible where I am down here, and it is what that is. So like I said, heaters fail on you too quite a bit, so I don't like them, but they're evil necessity to a lot of hobbyists, and it's probably one of the human components that are needed a lot depending on where you live in your situation, obviously. So now the other one is filters. Now filters, let's touch on this a little bit. I don't keep filters in my fish room for the most part. My last video, if you've seen, I showed I have a couple sponge filters in these breeding tanks in my white clouds. I just recently took them out of there. I only had them in there because I was watching White Cloud Dynasty. He's got a channel where he breeds white clouds and rainbow shiners, and he's phenomenal at them. So I highly suggest you go check that out if you're interested in those. And he was breeding them with sponge filters on, and he did that he told in the video I watched, because the small fry, when they're small, without that current, they would wind up turning on each other sometimes and like biting each other's dorsal fins off and stuff. So I wanted to keep that on there to see, but I decided, I pulled them out actually this morning. I wanted to see how, how that went. I did keep the air lines there and not disconnected yet, just in case I have to drop them in, just because it's not a deep substrate. And that's the thing. You can get away without filters if you have a deeper substrate. Now, with that deeper substrate, obviously, it cuts off oxygen to that dirt layer, and it creates an anoxic environment, which then in turn creates a denitrifying bacteria. And that denitrifying bacteria then will eat your ammonia process, eat your nitrates and everything, and it keeps them down. None of my tanks in here without the filters ever, and honestly, I have a hard time registering any nitrates. If I do, they usually get about 5 parts per million at the top, and that's about it. And that's just, I don't know how to explain it. I'm not a science guy, honestly. I don't know. I'm not an expert in any of this. I'll never proclaim to be. Honestly, like someone like Father Fish or Lucas over at LRB Aquatics, or even like Alex over in History. I can't remember his. I'm stupid. I can't remember his name. His channel, Fishtree. Anyway, those guys are highly intelligent when it comes to the science part of it, and they can explain all that stuff a lot better if you watch their stuff. But I can just tell you, I just know by what works for me. Putting these deep substrates in have worked immensely. From the very beginning, when I first started these tanks with deeper substrates and took my filters out, I don't know how to explain it, but my nitrates just disappeared. Thin air, gone. Never had an issue again. Ones without Without the deep substrate, that's when you got to worry about a little bit potentially with not you have to worry, but nitrates can rise up on you a little bit. So that's why I was being a little more careful with those two breeding tanks. I had those 10 gallons because I really only had probably like a half an inch of sand dusting at the bottom with rocks on it just for them to try to breed. So, but the only tank I do have a filter actually running is my 5-gallon tank I got up there, which was in my video on this past Friday. Which is that fry growout tank, just because I have about 8 or so baby white cloud minnow fry in there, which I will try to show you guys in a little bit if I can, if I have time. Because I want to try to keep these live streams at about that hour mark. I don't want people to fall asleep listening to me talk, and plus it's time for family stuff and all that kind of things. But anyway, back to that. So filters, they're not a bad thing. If people want to use filters, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. I don't care for them. I think sponge filters, as beneficial as they are by being able to hold all that beneficial bacteria within your aquariums, for me, they just take up real estate in my aquariums. I'd rather put plants there. The plants that are going to filter out that water, maybe not as much, but do the same. I mean, they're filtering the water. So I don't like them. I don't like the noise of the bubbling. I don't like hang on the backs with the noise and bubbling as well. Canister filters, I had one of those in my, was my puffer tank when I had it upstairs before I moved it down here in the fish room. And that was fine, but I don't want to maintain them. You know what I mean? It's just like, if I can get away without using filters, I mean, why use them then? Like, what's the point? So filters, nothing wrong with them. You can use them in any style tank, even a dirty natural tank. There's nothing wrong with them at all. It's just my preference not to. But let's get the lights. Now, lights is that next human component to an aquarium in a natural tank. Well, any tank for that matter, because unless you're outside and you have a tank that's in natural light from a window, or you keep it outside and you have live plants and all that, you're going to need some type of lighting. Now, how much lighting you need, that's really debatable depending on the person, the plants you grow, and all that stuff. But for me, like I said before, I'm in a basement here, so I need light. It's just another necessity that I need. So, and to truly attain a natural tank, I think you need to have natural sunlight, in my opinion. But again, we'll get to that in a second. The lights are very beneficial, obviously, because it's also part of that cycle I talked about before, that stool with the different legs. Because those lights will help your plants grow. And by doing so, they're another leg in that stool of that components that hold that whole ecosystem up. And if you take that light out, the plants don't grow. That knocks out that component, and then you're not going to have a water filtered, even if you have a filter in there, and it's just not beneficial in my opinion. So obviously you need lights. It's just part of it. So that being said, something was glowing in my puffer tank. It looked like a snail on a plant. It looked like it was flashing red, but I think it was from the light. Going crazy. Anyway, well, speaking of lights, I actually have a couple new lights I'm going to be doing some review videos on in the future. I got 2 of them sent to me. One of them from Higer and the other from Ciora. I have to say that I am in love with these Ciora lights, and I can't wait to show you the one that they sent me. And I actually, well, I don't want to give the topic of that video going to be away, but I replaced it with that Ciora light and took away my Fluval 3.0 plant light because I like that one much better. And yeah, you'll have to see that video when I do wind up shooting it. But plants are just, these lights are just essential. And like I said, it doesn't matter what type of light you use. And I have a plethora of different types of lights. Like I said, I've got that Fluval, I've got Ciora, I've got Higer lights, I've got a Glorium light. And then I got a lot of these shop lights too that I use that I started off with. Ciora, it's Seaoura, Tommy. And there are so many different options with lighting than there is just about everything else in this hobby as well, which is very cool. So like I said, you have so many options as a hobbyist. It doesn't matter what you want to do. There's a light for everything, and everyone's got their own opinion on it as well. You know, I've had so many people, like some of the old timers, that would talk to me to tell me that they use some of these old like bulb lights and stuff like that, and they grow the plants and everything much better. They might. I mean, they've been around for a while. They know what they're talking about. But I love these full spectrum lights. I really find them to be very, very beneficial, and I really like. I mean, I don't use the timer, the 24/7 things on a lot of them because I have a lot of things set up to my normal timers. But I don't know, I find them really cool. So anyway, so that's kind of like all the components that I was talking about when it comes to a natural tank, as far as, you know, all legs in that stool, and that we all have that stool. That's not bad. All legs in that, all these legs that are components to keep that ecosystem up. Then if you chop one off, they're going to be gone. So, like I said, it's all a symbiotic relationship between them all, and it's very important to keep them all. It's always important to think outside that box and to always try to figure out things on your own. So anyway, so let's go back to that question I asked in the very beginning. And if you weren't here in the very beginning, what I asked was, is a natural tank truly attainable in our hobby and in an aquarium? Well, I'm going to give you my answer and my opinion. My opinion is truly no. It's not attainable within an aquarium, a true natural tank. And I'll tell you why. And a lot of that is because if you look up natural in a dictionary, like I said in that video, it's something that's not man-made. It's something made of nature. And to be able to do that, we're putting all these different components in these aquariums. We're putting the substrate in, the plants in. We're creating a natural ecosystem. We're creating an ecosystem for them to kind of come together with and make their own ecosystem, but it wasn't made naturally, if that makes sense. So it's not a true ecosystem. Now, that being said, I will say someone like LRB Aquatics, he's got his aqua garden outside, and he's got a few tanks where he basically took a shovel and he took a chunk of plants and dirt, put it in an aquarium, and filled it with water. That, in my opinion, is as close to a natural tank anybody's ever going to get at. If you keep tanks outside in the natural sun with a natural, you take a shovel full of plants and everything in those areas and you put them out there and they thrive, that's a natural tank in my opinion. Now, us people, probably the other 99% of us that don't have that option to do that or don't have the ability to do that, this is the closest we can get. And that's always like what I look for in my fish room, my hobby, and my tanks is like, I just want to get as close to natural aquarium I can as humanly possible. Like I said, nothing ever in these fish rooms are going to be 100% natural, but we can get there as close as we can, and that's always my goal. And that's what I love about this is, I'm going to have lights on. I'm going to have a heater. I have a wave maker in like two of my tanks over here, the big ones, just to kind of get a little bit of water movement. But other than that, I mean, everything else is from the earth. All my wood I collect myself. The sand I collect from a local beach. The dirt, well, I buy it from Menards, but it's organic potting soil and organic compost. Plants I order, but they're obviously from earth. But I did, speaking of that, where was I going? Oh, I contacted the DNR here in Wisconsin this summer because my plans were to set up an aquarium with all plants that I collected from outside within my natural waterways here. And that was something I was going to try. And they had told me that basically that you need a permit to be able to pull plants from bodies of water. But if I'm only taking enough for like a bucketful for a tank or something, that it would not be an issue. And I actually talked to the head of the aquatic plant people in Wisconsin. So that's something to look at too. I mean, you don't need to buy plants if you can get them locally within your waterways. And I think that's really cool. So yeah, so like I said, what are your thoughts? I haven't really checked the chat too much while we're going here because it's hard for me to see that and going, but what are people's opinions on natural tanks? Can you truly attain them or not? I'd love to hear what you guys got to say. And by doing that, I'm going to stop and say hi to a few people here. Let's see, Aquarium Fantasy. Hello, how you doing? Vish, how you doing? I have a deep substrate tank fully planted for about a year now. Can I remove the filter? What about oxygen exchange? Yes, you can remove your filter. As long as you have a lot of plants in there, um, it will 100% be fine. What about oxygen exchange? I have no issues. Like I said, all my tanks have nothing going in them. It's going to be the plants are doing the work for you. Um, if you're worried, you can always put like a wave maker or power head in there, but it's not necessarily, it really depends on the size of your tank, your stock level and all that stuff. Like I said, I've had some tanks that are just full of fish, no filter, no nothing, and they're completely fine. You just got to kind of don't be scared and just let it go. You'll be fine. I guarantee you. You might have your tank might change a little bit. That's the one thing is your tank is used to a filter. It's used to that flow. It's used to the bacteria that's within that filter. If you have, whether it's a sponge filter or whatever it is. But when you remove it, sometimes it takes a little bit for that tank to kind of balance out again because there was a change in that ecosystem. There was a change in the environment that it was in. So by doing that, sometimes you'll have like maybe a little bit of cloudy water that pops up for a little bit, but then it goes away. It balances itself back out and cycles it. But yeah, there's no worry. Most of my tanks here, when I set them up, they're brand new tanks. I don't even start with a filter. I go right away without filters and I have no issues at all. Hello, Stan Pittman. Correct. The goal is to get as close as possible as you can. Now I'm doing opposite. I'm going up the chat instead of starting and going down. So M&C Aquatics, welcome. All right. We'll go back down to the bottom and see where we are. All right. Stan says, I live on a prestige 600-acre laker, 2.5 miles off pavement. I collect plants often. The water is clean. I start all the tanks with lake water. That's awesome too. I've heard of that, and I think that's a great way to do it as well. If you have a clean water source, like you said, if you have a clean water source to be able to use that water to start up your tanks, I think that's great too. Audrey, okay, bye, Audrey. Thank you very much for stopping by. I appreciate it. So yeah, I've had people tell me actually that they've taken water from a lake and put it in green water, and it helped clean it up as well. I don't know any truth to that other than comments from people tell me sometimes in some of my videos, but 100%, you can take water from a natural source, and that'll be great too because it also brings it closer to a natural aquarium. Let's see. Hello, Dave Mendoza. Hello, and have a good day at church. Let's see. All right, so that's natural tanks. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about today for the most part. And like I said, is it attainable? Truly, no. As long as you can do someone like the LRB, like Tommy said I saw in the chat before, and I do remember you had stuff outside. That's all natural. That's completely and utterly natural. And by Tommy, it's Silver Creek Wildlife. If you're not sure, go check out his channel and subscribe as well. So I guess let's move on to the next topic at hand, which I wanted to talk about a little bit. And that is the video I put out on Friday. It's about my best fry growout tank ever. I started it's a 5.5 gallon tank or a 5 gallon tank. I got it from my son when he gave up his fish room and gave me all his tanks. And basically what it is I put white cloud minnows in there, a breeding pair. I put a piece of egg crate at the bottom with some rocks so it would stay off the bottom. Then I put rocks on top of that and had them in there to breed. So if the eggs would fall, they'd fall down to the bottom and then, pull those fish out of there and hopefully those fry grow up. Well, what I originally started with those white clouds in a 2.5 gallon tank. And I had previously to that for about a month or more was a couple resurrection jars that I had poured in there and poured the water out when I put those white clouds in there initially, but I had a sponge filter in there. It wasn't running. It was just sitting there. I seeded it for my summer tubs outside if I would need them, which I never did. And poured it out, and then I put the fish in there and filled it up with tap water. And when I moved it to this 5-gallon tank and put them in there, all of a sudden I saw life everywhere. I was just like, what? Where did it all come from? Well, my opinion is the copeds and all that life kind of got a hold of that sponge filter, and they came alive through that. And it just exploded in there. And once those fry were born, what I did is I took a piece of algae from my summer tubs outside and threw that out there in there as well as a food source, because I knew there'd probably be some paramecium and microscopic life within that would be in there to help them feed at that smaller stage. So I found that to be really cool. And it's dirty. Well, why don't I show you guys and you can see for yourself, but it's just insane. Hang on, let me flip this. So I'll try to get the glare out from the tank behind, but I did a water change on this morning, but those guys are starting to really, those little white clouds are really starting to eat everything that's in here, and that was the goal. I actually saw one of the white cloud fry snatch up a coped this morning. I wasn't filming it. I just happened to be looking, and I saw him just snatch it out of thin air, and it was awesome. But, you know, a dirty tank is the best tank when it comes to these guys. When it comes to any fry you want to grow out, because there'll be a plethora of food in there. And just, it's crazy the amount of food that'll be in here, the microscopic food life, all the way to, you know, like the macro stuff, like the snails and the little copeds and little worms and stuff that are in here. But it's all a food source for these guys. And I find that to be completely and utterly interesting and beneficial to that matter too, because there are so much life in here that you can feed anything when it comes to this type of a grow out tank for fry. And like I said, I'm completely surprised by it. I absolutely love it. There's so much in here. I know it's hard to see anything right now besides all this algae and stuff and the fry going around once in a while. But like I said, I don't see a lot of life in here anymore. They have really started to feed on it in the last week or so and have really taken off. So I find that to be extremely interesting and really cool. So basically, you know, a dirty tank is the best tank to grow out fry. And I think that's awesome. And let's give a little update. Here's Sparkles, my Oscar, in a dirty tank. And I have been battling cloudy water in here. It's still got a little bit of a haze, but it's starting to go away. And there's a couple people in the comments of my video that basically is telling me that it's never going to get uncloudy. I need a filter, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's not. And this guy has been doing great with these plants so far as well. So I'm absolutely loving it. And I'm hoping to prove everyone wrong that I can't keep this guy in a planted dirty tank, but time will only tell. Say hi, Puff Daddy. He's doing great too with his tank. Was battling cyanobacteria in here. I still do have a small amount of it. I actually blacked this tank out completely, and that took away a lot of that algae. And I put a new light on here as well, which we'll explain in another video. All right, let's get back over here. So that being said, like I said, dirty tanks are the best tanks when it comes to fried grow, and I think it's freaking amazing. And then, like I said, next week, don't forget to stop by as well, because I'm going to have Maul from Aquarium Delirium in here as my guest. And like I said, I'm not familiar with this live stream stuff yet. I've been doing trying the YouTube live stream right now. I'm going to try flipping it for next week with Maul. I looked at the StreamYard. I know some of you like, hey, Jim from Happy Places Aquatics is here. And Tommy, some of you guys that use the StreamYard, I looked into it a little bit. I do like a lot of the features on it, but the one thing I don't like, that unless I'm wrong and I didn't see it, the ability to do what I just did, to be able to flip the camera and go walk around. A couple times I've been a guest on people's channels with the StreamYard and tried to show my stuff at, there was nowhere I could see to be able to flip that. And it basically, you're blindly just pushing and pulling the camera around trying to show what you can show. And I don't really like that. I like to have the ability to get up and just kind of hey, look what's going on. So I'm thinking I'm going to stick with the YouTube now unless someone convinces me otherwise. But like I said, next week, Maul from Aquarium Delirium will be here. You can, Patty, even on the free version, Maul said. All right, I'll have to look into that in the settings. All right, thanks, Jeff. I'll have to definitely look into that. Like I said, I like some of the features on StreamYard that I looked at. I've been doing private videos or unlisted on this one just to see play around with the features without actually going live and looking like a doorknob. Have a live stream pop up on my people's feeds and ask, see what the hell I'm doing. I'm sitting there probably picking my nose and looking through the settings. So I've been doing it in private just to kind of get an idea of what's going on. But anyway, that's basically the stuff I wanted to talk about for the most part today. So what is everybody's plans for this beautiful Sunday on this Labor Day in Wisconsin, United States? I know today is Sunday, which is the last Sunday of no NFL football until the middle of February. I'm very excited about that. I am a huge football fan. I'm also a huge fantasy football fan. I obsess about all that stuff. You're going to remodel, Jeff? Really? That sounds like work. Yeah, sometimes work is unnecessary, an unneeded thing, but it has to happen. Tank maintenance, yep. I did that actually early this morning. Got down here. I'm an early riser. I usually wake up between 4 and 5 in the morning every day, even when I work. And it's usually the best time I can come down here to do stuff before the family gets up because it doesn't interfere with any type of family time. So, Aquarium Fantasy, you're working today. Sorry to hear that. Although, make some money, so that's not a bad thing either, so you can buy some more fish. But, yes, Molly, your football is soccer. Yes, I know. But the real football is NFL football. Just kidding. Patty, if nothing else, have someone on the StreamYard and come on. They could show you how to. Yep, that's true too. I'll play around with the private settings and see a little bit. Do that this week. But like I said, make sure you guys stop by and see Maul next week for sure. Yep, more money for the aquarium addiction. That is exactly right, Aquarium Fantasy. I have spent so much money on this hobby. When I first started this, I told my wife, $50. $50 is all it's ever going to cost. I don't know how many thousands of more dollars it's costing all these tanks. This is the last tank I came in here and she said, no more tanks. There's no more room. You're not going to bring it out of this room anymore. See, there's always room for one more. I had a video I actually shot that'll be out in a couple of weeks where I actually added more, not tanks, but containers. There's always a nook and a cranny you can stick something to put fish or plants in. That's for dang sure. Oh, have you ever tried rugby? No, I've never tried rugby. I was a wrestler in high school. That was the sport I loved. I loved, I was going to say tangling with men, but that sounded really bad. I love the competitiveness of wrestling when I was in high school. So that's probably the closest I ever got to rugby, just because with wrestling, it was, if I lost by myself. There was no one else I could blame but myself. But yeah, let's see. What else is up here? Home Depot trip, yes. For me, Jeff, that's Menards. When I wind up doing projects, Menards is down the road for me, and I go there. And you can never make just one trip. You go there and you buy stuff, and you get home, and you're like, dang it all, I needed this, or I didn't get the right one, and then you're back there. I mean, there's a few projects I've done. I went back and forth like 3 times. I was about ready to go, I think I was fixing a toilet that one time. I'm like, we don't need the toilet. I got a bucket. Let's go outside. But yeah, definitely. So yeah, like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed it today. I was rambling quite a bit there for a while. So Mountaintop Fish, hello, welcome. So like I said, I love natural tanks. I love everything about them. the dirt tank aspect as well. I found it to be just, I don't know how to explain it. Like I found my passion in life, besides obviously being a husband and a father. But I mean, I love this hobby. I love everything about it. I told the wife that someday if this channel would ever grow larger and I could be able to compensate with selling like fish and plants, I would love to quit my job and be able to do this as a job someday. I mean, it's a pipe dream, something that'll probably never happen, but you know, you never know. Like I said, this hobby is awesome. I love everything about it. Raisin human fry naturally. Nice, nice small. All right. That is the dream patty. I wish for the same. Yep. I think everyone probably would. Who wouldn't want a job where you could do what you love and not to actually have to go to a workplace? I work in a factory. I make toilet seats for all you guys to sit on to go to the bathroom. As nice of a job and easy as it is, I make okay money. I mean, I'd rather do something I love. That's a menial job. I go and basically every day I just think about the next video or the next project I want to do. Gets me through the day. Hello, Eric Fishman. How you doing? Yep, almost wrapping up. I'm gonna try to keep it about an hour long, but yeah, definitely. Natural tanks. I know you know a lot about that as well. Actually love it. Bemis would miss me. Hey, Jerry. Bemis would miss me. No, they wouldn't. Everybody's replaceable. Anyway, hello, Jason. How's it going? So, yeah, like I said, I'm going to try to keep these live streams about an hour. We'll have all different topics every week as I do them. Like I said, I'm going to try to do them every Sunday at 9 a.m. my local time. Like I said, different topics every week. Have guests here and there. Maybe some fish room maintenance or showing my fish room around a little bit once in a while. There's all different things that I have ideas for that I want to do. I can maybe even do some giveaways and stuff like that too. But also, I am offering memberships to my channel. Like I don't like promoting that stuff. I really don't. I put it in my videos just because I feel like I should, because it is there. And if people want to be a paid member of my channel, you're more than welcome. I have 3 members right now. That's it. Father Fish is one of them. He's been a member for about 6 months. Jesse over at Sailing Aquatics is another member. And then my brother-in-law, Ron Strickland Jr., he's the one that gave me all that grape olive root wood that I use in some of my aquariums, if I could speak. Anyway, so those are the members, and thank you very much for your contribution. And I want to do more for my members. It's just hard when you only have 3 of them. I can shoot like a video out here or there, a picture. I'll give you shout outs. But once this channel, if I'm gonna say once, if this channel can grow more, I definitely want to do a heck of a lot more for members and the paid membership. And I also have a link in my channel description for, I have merch now. Yay, Pens Aquatics merch. So you can wear a t-shirt like this and walk around, or a hoodie or a coffee mug or some stickers. But anyway, that's what it is. That's all the advertisement I need to do now. But does anyone got any questions or anything they want to talk about here before we wrap up? Yes, YouTube tax us for that. I find that ridiculous. I put $4.99 for a membership and they take $1.50 of it. It definitely is a scam, not a scam. It's taxation. I shouldn't say that, or they're going to boot me off, or they're going to do something to me. I'm sorry. YouTube is the greatest. It actually is pretty good. It just, everything takes their money. It adds a members only video backlog to content if you start early. Oh, okay. It's good to know. How much do they tax the membership? I don't know what the percentage is. Like I said, I charge $4.99 a month, and I get, was it $3.49? So they take about $1.50 of it. So, yeah. So, like I said, I appreciate everyone stopping by. I was very surprised to see this many people here. I thought for sure my first live stream I'd only get like maybe a handful of people, and most of them would be family. So very cool to see you all guys here. I appreciate it a lot. And I think I'm going to wrap it up here, just under an hour, if no one else has got nothing they want to talk about. And like I said, remember next week to stop by and see Maul from Aquarium Delirium. You definitely want to check that out. I'm thinking up some cool questions to ask him that maybe get you guys to know him a little better. So Aquarium Fantasy, I live in the state of Wisconsin here in the United States of America. The city I live on is right on Lake Michigan, and it's a pretty cool lake. That's where I found a lot of my natural resources, like my sand and my driftwood and stuff like that. I'd rather a PayPal tipping service and keep it, but I can see some benefits. Yes, I completely agree with that, Maul. A cold state, yes, it is. It can be in the winter. Maybe not as bad as like Canada, up where Stubbs Aquatics is. Oh, by the way, I should really plug this since we're here. I got this coffee mug from Chris over at Stubbs Aquatics a while back. I've been sneaking it in a lot of videos, but go check him out too. He's a real cool guy. And it's probably colder up there than it is here. So, but you know, I love the change of seasons. I love to be able to have a winter, a fall, a spring, and a summer. I just wish we had more spring and summer than there was winter, it seems like. Because you're stuck more inside, but you know what? It gives me more time to work in the fish room, so I'm okay with that too. But anyway, I guess I'm going to sign out and say thank you very much. Thanks all for stopping by. Enjoy this last Sunday before NFL football for you. Those of you that watch it starts next week. Yeah. Always remember to think outside the box and take a step back in the nature. I hope to see you guys in my next video on Friday, which, by the way, I should talk about that real quick. I got new fish. I got new fish for that natural aquarium I set up, so I can't wait to show you guys that. Then hope to see you again back here on Sunday, and we talk to Maul, and we'll get to know him better. All right. See you guys later. Thank you very much for stopping by.